Join me in welcoming Mayor G.T. Bynum.
Big boy, big boy, big boy. I said, boy.
Oh, goodness. Thank you so much. Goodness gracious. Well, that's the test now. If y'all don't stand up when I've actually given my speech, it's a huge failure. Now, thank you, Kelly, so much for that introduction. Spirit's doing some really exciting things here in Tulsa. I'm going to talk about those in a moment. I also want to thank, I think he got missed in the intros, but my friend, he and I have been friends for like 20 years, and he's the president pro tem of the Oklahoma State Senate. Greg Treat is with us here today. Senator, thank you. And I want to thank all of you for being here today. As anybody here who's engaged in public service knows, you do not do it alone. And for me, being mayor is the most challenging, exciting, all-consuming job I ever expect to have. And I am so grateful for the support that I receive from my family while I'm following this dream of mine. And I want to recognize a few of them who are here today. My wife, Susan, who's here. My mom, Susie. And my granddad, the dean of the former mayors of Tulsa, still taking care of business every day at 92, Bob LaFortune. One of my favorite traditions that we've started in recent years is called 918 Day. We established 918 Day in 2018 to really set aside one day every year where we can celebrate the broad diversity of all that Tulsa has to offer. And as part of this, I've taken a 24-hour tour of Tulsa every 918 Day. So from midnight to midnight, I visit as many places and see as many Tulsans as I can in a 24-hour period of time. And it's an incredible experience to see so many parts of our city, to see the bakeries at Bama cranking out 2.5 million biscuits every single day here in Tulsa, to be in the TPD helicopter on patrol when the sun rises in the morning and to see our city wake up, to visit kids in schools and see historic places in our city. And there's never enough time to see everything that we want to see. It really gives you an appreciation for how much Tulsa has to offer. But there is a human side to taking a 24-hour tour. The first year, it was awesome. I spent a lot of time preparing, got a lot of sleep the week in advance, hydrated myself, and the whole day, we just rode this wave of positivity all day. I wasn't even tired when midnight came around. This year, I could not say the same. I got a little cocky. I joined a delegation of Tulsans for a 10-day trip to Israel, and we returned at 4 p.m. on September 17th. And on the way home, I picked up a really delightful little stomach bug. And so when midnight rolled around, 8 hours after I had landed back in Tulsa, I made the genius decision that the only way I was going to make it through 918 Day was if I just didn't eat anything all day long. So let's fast forward to hour 23 on that 24-hour tour. It's 11 o'clock at night, and Councilor Lakin and I are at the Mohawk Water Treatment Plant. And I want to give a shout out to Councilor Lakin because he's been there for the span of these tours both years. So he climbs mountains, and then he goes on 24-hour tours with me. So Phil and I are standing there in the water treatment plant, and these really wonderful tech guys on our team at the city are walking us through how water flows through the entire system from Spavinaw all the way to your tap. And then all of a sudden, all of my bad choices catch up with me at once. And I feel like I'm about to faint standing right there in the room. But I don't want to interrupt their presentation. And so I think to myself, and this is how your brain works 23 hours into the tour, well, if I just stare at the ground and keep my feet moving around, I'm sure I won't pass out. And in retrospect, I'm pretty sure those poor guys, for them, it looked like the mayor had shown up at their place of work not having been drinking Tulsa tap water, staggering around in their workplace while they're trying to make a presentation. And thankfully, Phil intervened, asked a few informed questions, and then shooed us on our way. And we went on to the Tulsa World, where we saw the first issue of the day come off the press, and I got a fake tattoo from Bruce Plant, and the day was over. All of this to say, the team that we have at the city of Tulsa right now is the real deal. We lean on each other in times of need, sometimes, in my case, literally. And I want to thank my partners in all that I'm going to talk about today, our city auditor, Kathy Carter, and my colleagues on the Tulsa City Council, Councilors Hall Harper, Q, Patrick McKee, Thaler, Dodson, Dr. Wright, Lakin, and Kimbrough are a selfless group of legislators, and I'm thankful for all the time and heart that they put into their work on behalf of the citizens of Tulsa. I feel so fortunate to get to work with an extraordinary city council during my time as mayor. And even with 4 new faces on the council this year, we've continued the team approach that allows us to avoid the unproductive bickering of the past and instead work together to move Tulsa forward. So councilors, thank you. And it's not just the elected officials. We are so fortunate to have some of the best minds in Tulsa having chosen to dedicate their talents to public service at the city of Tulsa. Their work is garnering attention all around the world. And speaking of international attention and what we're doing in Tulsa, I want to say what an honor it is to be joined today at the State of the City by the Japanese Consul General, Hideo Fukushima. Thank you, sir. The reality is we're doing so much on so many fronts, there's no way I can talk about it all today. And so I would encourage all of you to follow me on Facebook at Mayor GT Bynum. I do it all myself, for good or for bad. And if you want to keep up to date on everything that's going on, that's a good place to do it. And I also want to thank all of you, and especially the Tulsa Regional Chamber, for your support of the Improve Our Tulsa vote on Tuesday. When you love a city as much as I love Tulsa, it's incredibly moving to see a community rise up and support improvements that need to be made when they need to be made. And the citizens of Tulsa did just that on Tuesday. We have established such a strong working partnership between the city of Tulsa and the Tulsa Regional Chamber, which impacts a lot of the things I'm going to talk about today. But you saw it on display in that historic margin of victory on Tuesday. We believe that was actually the largest margin of victory on any citywide election in the history of the city. Our work at the city of Tulsa is focused on one overarching mission, and that's to make Tulsa a globally competitive world-class city. And we seek to accomplish this through 3 main ways. We want to make Tulsa a safe city. We want to make Tulsa a city of opportunity, and we want to empower this generation of Tulsans to build the city that they want to leave to the next generation. And when it comes to making Tulsa a safer city, the City Council and I have prioritized police department staffing. In my first month as mayor, we had 735 police officers in our department. The City Council and I funded record-sized academies in each of the last 3 budgets. This has been the greatest surge in police department staffing in Tulsa history. And today, we stand at 842 patrol officers. That's a 14.5% increase, representing 107 additional officers keeping Tulsa safe. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite things to attend as mayor are the academy graduations for the Tulsa Police Department and the Tulsa Fire Department. When you see young people who have decided to dedicate their careers to public service and to saving lives, it's inspiring to see them start it. and it's moving to see their families who are so proud of them cheering them on. My face hurts from smiling at the end of every single one of these academy graduations. And yet in our history as a city, we've been way too fast and loose with their job stability. We're the second largest city in the nation that is forced to rely on sales tax for operations. And sales tax is a volatile revenue source. And time and again in Tulsa, we've seen an economic downturn. People spend less money. And then we're forced to cut back on our largest expense, which is public safety staffing. Those are the worst meetings I ever attended as a city councilor in 8 years on the council. Seeing the spouses and children of dedicated public servants pleading for their loved one not to be laid off, and we simply had no money saved up to prevent it. That's why a rainy day fund is so important and why I'm so grateful to our city council who allowed us to use budgetary savings over the last 2 years to triple the size of our rainy day fund, and to the citizens of Tulsa who on Tuesday approved the creation of one of the first in the nation dedicated permanent funding sources for a rainy day fund. It will make our city safer, and it will make an unpredictable job a little less unpredictable for every one of the men and women who work to keep all of us safe. But we recognize we need to be smart on crime too. And that's led to a number of groundbreaking public safety initiatives that are underway. One of the most exciting is the Tulsa Sobering Center, which we operate in partnership with 12 and 12. Now, one of the areas where the city of Tulsa is really leading the nation is in the use of data to address problems. In my first year as mayor, we identified that the number one municipal offense that we arrest people for is public intoxication. And what most cities find is that people they arrest for public intoxication either have a serious drug and alcohol problem or they've made a once-in-a-lifetime mistake. Yet in Tulsa, we always threw them in jail with violent criminals receiving no treatment for the root cause of the problem. We knew there had to be a better approach than that. And so instead, when an officer identifies someone who's publicly intoxicated, they now offer them two options. Option number one, they can arrest them and take them to jail. Or option number two, they can take them to the Tulsa Sobering Center where they sleep it off for 10 hours. At the end of those 10 hours, they're offered treatment. If they want it, they get it. If they don't want it, they're put in a cab and sent on their way. And I will tell you, in our first year of operation, we found that even when people are intoxicated, they almost always select door number 2 when given that option. In fact, so far, over 1,100 people have utilized this facility, giving them an opportunity for treatment rather than punishment. This approach saves our officers time, and it saves the taxpayers money because sending someone to the Tulsa Sobering Center costs less than sending them to jail. It's better treatment, it's better use of officer time, it's better use of taxpayer dollars. The Tulsa Sobering Center has been an innovative success in its first year of operation. Our community policing program continues to grow as our manpower levels increase. We have over 75 different initiatives that are being implemented by the Tulsa Police Department through this program. And I want to take a moment to say how proud I am of the men and women of the Tulsa Police Department. I think we have the best police department in America. And it's because they are always, thank you. And it's because they're always seeking out continuing education and new training that they can pursue to better serve Tulsans in an increasingly complex job. They have initiated training to identify and assist people that are suffering a mental health crisis. They're going through right now implicit bias training, and just last week we celebrated that over 700 Tulsa police officers have gone through the Dementia-Friendly Tulsa training curriculum so they can better assist and serve Tulsans who are suffering from dementia. They're also very focused on young Tulsans, in particular through two great programs called Project Trust and the Tulsa Police Activities League, each of which focuses on engaging students from across the community and building bonds between them and officers at an early age. We've also seen great success in the first year of our innovative program for reducing panhandling, the Better Way program. Tulsa was one of the first cities in America to test out this approach, and the general idea is that our partner, the Mental Health Association of Oklahoma, actively seeks out panhandlers. When they find them, they offer them an honest day's pay for an honest day's work, cleaning up litter, beautifying public spaces, trimming shrubs in parks, stuff like that. But the key to the program is that it's not a day labor program. That's just to get people in the door. The key for the program is that lunch is provided, and during lunch, social service agencies interview the participants and find out what they need. To date, the Better Way program has assisted over 1,300 people who have cleaned up over 48,000 pounds of trash. 1/3 of the participants enrolled in services, and over 200 people have found employment through participation in this program, thanks to a job counselor that is funded by the Tulsa Area United Way. One of the most exciting aspects of this program, though, for me, is that in testing it out, we found that we had almost identical results in our first year as the city of Albuquerque, the very first city that tried this out. And so what we've been able to show is that different cities in different parts of our country can develop similar results from having this program. And those results have encouraged other cities across America to start implementing their own Better Way programs. And so because Tulsans were willing to try something a little different and take a different approach, there are people that none of us will ever meet all around this country who are going to receive the help they need and have the potential to get off the street and lead more rewarding lives. But the Better Way program is not a one-size-fits-all solution. We recognize that we need to be doing more in Tulsa to address homelessness. So this year, thanks to a partnership with the Ann and Henry Zero Foundation, we hired the City of Tulsa's first ever housing policy director, and she will draw on the expertise of so many in our community who are engaged with this work, and will draw together the resources of the city government to address homelessness and other issues around housing in Tulsa in a comprehensive way. Now, Tulsa has also received international attention this year because we opened the search for graves from the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. And I'm so grateful for the community leaders who are assisting in that work and for the expertise of the many historians and technical experts who are guiding it. If we expect Tulsa to be a city where everyone feels safe, then we have to be a city that works to solve every homicide, whether it happened yesterday or 98 years ago. Now, the greatest threat that we faced in the realm of public safety in the last year was in May. That's when we were hit by an earthquake. A lot of people forget the earthquake. It was just such a fun time. It's pretty great when you can get hit by an earthquake and everyone forgets that. But we were hit by an earthquake. Then we were hit by tornadoes. Then we started to flood. And then we were hit by more tornadoes while we were flooding. It was a uniquely Oklahoma experience. But throughout the response, involving people from Sand Springs to Bixby, from unincorporated Tulsa County to Jinx, you never heard anyone say, "That's not my job." You never heard anyone say, "I'm in charge here." We worked as a region and we handled everything that came our way day by day until the waters began to recede. This is what the Tulsa Metro is capable of when we set aside our gripes and work as a team in the best interests of our neighbors. And the embodiment of that spirit of collaboration were the first responders and field crews who worked around the clock to protect our neighbors. And on behalf of the hundreds who worked tirelessly throughout the event, I've asked representatives of just a few of the various organizations to join us today. But there are people across this room who represent organizations from PSO to the Red Cross that helped in this historic effort. So if you represent one of those organizations, if you represent a local community that pulled together, if you represent a member of our congressional delegation that made sure the powers that be in DC knew what we needed, if you're a state legislator who took time out of a session to come and make sure that we had what we needed from the state, if your name is Karen Keith, I would ask that you please stand up so everyone in this room can show you how much we appreciate your leadership and your work. That's just the people in this room, by the way. There were thousands who worked on this throughout this region. It was a true community-wide effort, and it was one of Tulsa's finest hours. The second area of focus for us in making Tulsa a globally competitive world-class city is in making sure that this is a city of opportunity for everyone. And you can't talk about opportunity without talking about education. I was honored recently to be named the chair of the Leadership Council for Impact Tulsa. It's a group that works with each of our major school districts using data to help them improve student performance. And the data analytics work of Impact Tulsa has convinced me that there's a lot more that the city of Tulsa can be doing that will help improve student performance outcomes. We're really in the early stages of that analysis, but I'm excited to be a better partner to our schools. But the city of Tulsa is deploying a broad range of programs to assist our educational institutions here. Thanks to Vision Tulsa, we're working to create safer routes to schools with improvements to crosswalks and lighting all across the city. We're also funding a teacher recruitment and retention program that Tulsa Public Schools, Union, and Jinx are deploying to bring the best teachers to Tulsa and keep them here. On a different note, I think one of the great tragedies in America today is that every time we try to have a conversation about immigration in the public arena, a lot of folks automatically want to jump and have a debate about illegal immigration. But I will tell you, one of the most inspiring things that I get to do as mayor is to attend citizenship ceremonies. When you see people who've risked everything and left their homeland because they view Tulsa and Oklahoma and the United States as this beacon of freedom and opportunity, it just fills you with so much pride for our country. But earlier this year, we discovered that there are so many people in Tulsa from around the world who are becoming American citizens that there weren't enough ceremonies to hold all of them. And so people were having to go to Oklahoma City for the ceremony. They had crossed oceans and continents to become Tulsans, and then they were having to go down the turnpike to go through the naturalization ceremony. Well, I think y'all know, I love Mayor Holt. We have a serious bromance going on between our two cities. But that notion is unacceptable. And so this year, we started hosting those ceremonies in the city council chambers at Tulsa City Hall. And when we started doing this, we were informed that Tulsa was the first municipality in the state of Oklahoma to host naturalization ceremonies. And if, over the course of the coming election year, you're feeling down about the divisiveness in America today, I encourage you to come to one of these ceremonies. It will cure what ails you. And through our new Tulsans initiative, we also partnered with the YWCA of Greater Tulsa and received a grant that's allowing us to address barriers to American citizenship. In the Tulsa Metro, we have over 10,000 people who are eligible to become American citizens, but face some barrier to going through the process. A lot of the time, it's the legal expense of all the paperwork that they have to go through. And so this grant will allow us to cover those legal expenses and break down those barriers for our newest fellow Americans. And when it comes to economic opportunity, I'm also excited that Tulsa is one of 6 cities from around the nation selected for an economic mobility study grant. This initiative is funded by Bloomberg Philanthropies, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the Ballmer Group, and it's part of work work being done out of Harvard University. Researchers at Harvard have been studying the reality of the American dream over the last 50 years. And for statistical purposes, they define that as the percentage of children who go on to earn more than their parents. What they found is that this percentage has been in steady decline since the 1940s. If you were a child born in the 1940s, you had over a 90% chance of going on to make more than your parents. Today, it's a 50-50 shot. Thanks to our participation in this research grant, we're able to analyze this in Tulsa and test out different approaches for impacting it. And many of you will recall that one of the main reasons that I ran for mayor was because a kid born in North Tulsa is expected to live 11 years less than a kid elsewhere in the city. And I know that Susan and I, we love our two kids more than anybody in the world. And I know that my neighbors in North Tulsa feel the same way about their kids. And so if we're really going to be the kind of city that I think we want Tulsa to be, then we have to be working with all we have to address the fact that there are thousands of kids in our city who are being robbed of a decade of their life just because of where they're growing up. Now remember that statistic when I show you this next slide. This map is produced by the same group of researchers and shows household income for people tracked back to the neighborhood they grew up in. So if you grew up in Tulsa, you can look at that map and see the neighborhood you grew up in and see that the average income of your neighbors when you were growing up, the kids you used to ride bikes with and stuff. The bluer it gets, the higher the household income for kids that grew up in that neighborhood. The redder it gets, the lower the household income for kids that grew up in that neighborhood. What you see here is the statistical manifestation of North Tulsa taking a back seat to the rest of the city for decades when it comes to economic prosperity, and that is a direct impact on the life expectancy disparity that compelled me to run for mayor. So we're going to change that. We've recruited the two largest new employers in the 180-plus year history of the city of Tulsa. We've recruited them to our city in the last 2 years, and Amazon and Green Hat Group are building their campuses in North Tulsa. We have incentivized the relocation of Muncie Power Products to the Peoria Mohawk Business Park. WPX, Vast Bank, and USA BMX are all building their headquarters facilities in the historic Greenwood District. But we will have failed if we build all these new facilities and North Tulsans just stand on the sidelines and watch all the progress. So to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to benefit from this investment, the city is partnering with Tulsa Community Work Advance to initiate two programs. Due North, which is focused on equipping North Tulsa residents with additional skills that they may need to compete for these new jobs, and Next Up, which is focused on equipping young Tulsans with the skills they need to compete for 21st century jobs. And this leads me to the third area that we're focused on in making Tulsa a globally competitive world-class city, and that is the issue of investment. And I want to revisit an issue that we discussed last year. We've heard for years that the city of Tulsa is a difficult place for development and for investment. That people wanting to invest in projects in our city have to wait extended periods of time to get plans reviewed. And when time equals money, this scares away a lot of investment that would otherwise occur. And again, one of the culture shifts that we've instilled at the city is to always follow the data. And so I asked, after hearing this for years, well, what is the average time that it takes for us to just review a permit application for the first time? And when I got that number back, it confirmed all of my worst fears. Just to review an application for the first time was taking the city of Tulsa 25 working days, 5 weeks. So we went to work. With the support of the city council and the development community, we made the changes necessary to staff our plan review team properly. The staff in our development services department worked hard to educate their new team members and adopt new innovative processes like third-party plan reviews. And today, I'm proud to say our team has hit their mark for the first time. As of last Friday, 100% of projects in our work log were at a 5-day review time for the initial review. And what I love is that our team is not satisfied with that. In notifying me of this achievement, they assured me that they're working to ensure the current time becomes an extended average for all components of our review process. It's this spirit of continuous improvement and commitment that led Amazon's development team to tell me that of all the cities they've worked with, Tulsa was the best city to work with. And they may tell every mayor that, but I'm taking it as a compliment for us. Now, I want to set the historical context for what we're all living through right now. There have been three great waves of investment in Tulsa's history. The first was in the 1920s and 30s when we became a true city. That was when we built one of the first airports in the world when most Americans had never even seen an airplane. It's when we built the Spavinaw water line that was such a marvel of engineering that the President of the United States came here to open it. That was when we built the Art Deco masterpieces that composed downtown's historic core. The second era was in the 1960s and 70s when we became a regional city. That's when the Port of Catoosa was completed, when we built the highway network that connected Tulsa with our suburban neighbors in a way we never had been before. This was when we created a city-county library system and a city-county health department, and when the great Tulsa businessman John Williams saved downtown by building the Williams Center right smack in the middle of Boston Avenue. The third historic wave of investment in Tulsa is happening right now, and it's happening all around us. As I mentioned a moment ago, WPX is building its headquarters facility in the historic Greenwood District, a beautiful building that will connect both Greenwood and the Tulsa Arts District. Vast Bank is building its headquarters in the Greenwood District, another beautiful building that will have a rooftop area overlooking One Oak Field. Amazon has completed construction of its massive fulfillment center in North Tulsa and plans to begin hiring in 2020. Greenheck Group is building a remarkable campus in North Tulsa, is already employing people, and will be ramping up employment over the next several years. American Airlines has announced over 550 new jobs in Tulsa this year alone. Their leadership told me that they advertised their first round of 400 jobs, and there was such a strong response from people all around the country who wanted to work in the aerospace industry in Tulsa that they realized they had even more capacity to grow here. Spirit Aerosystems announced an investment of over $80 million in their Tulsa facility, and they're adding 250 jobs to their facility here. New construction is moving quickly, and historic renovations are happening too. This year, the Tulsa Club was saved and has been restored to its historic beauty. And while this large-scale investment in Tulsa is exciting, we also have to be mindful of supporting small and growing Tulsa companies, and that's why we recently created a position in my office that is solely focused on small business and entrepreneurship. But when it comes to investment, the citizens of Tulsa aren't just watching all of this happen. They're holding their own. After 50 years of steady land accumulation, we broke ground last month on the Gilcrease Expressway, which will open up West Tulsa for investment in a way that it hasn't been before. We broke ground on the Oklahoma Museum of Popular Culture, OK Pop, which will honor our artists while inspiring Oklahoma's next generation of creators. We opened the Oklahoma Air National Guard's Mission Training Center, which will bring fighter pilots from all around the country to Tulsa for simulator-based training, and will improve our ability to compete for the next round of F-35s being deployed by the U.S. Department of Defense. We opened the TCC, Student Success Center, funded through Vision Tulsa, which will connect students with rewarding jobs and further educational opportunities. In the next few weeks alone, we will launch the state's first bus rapid transit line right here in Tulsa, running along the Peoria corridor from 56th Street North down to 81st Street. And this will open up access to jobs for people living along that line that they've not had before. And we believe it will change the way Tulsans use public transit. We'll also break ground tomorrow on USA BMX's Olympic Training and Trials facility in the Greenwood District, which will bring over 100,000 people to Tulsa in its first 5 years alone. And we expect to advertise for construction in the first half of 2020 the low-water dam that will create a lake averaging 8 to 10 feet in depth and running from 29th Street north past downtown. And as always, the philanthropic community is doing remarkable work here in Tulsa. Mother Road Market, built by the Lobeck Taylor Family Foundation, has not just created a space for food entrepreneurship in our city, it has anchored the revitalization of Route 66 through Tulsa. And the gathering place exceeded even its own lofty expectations by attracting nearly 3 million visitors to Tulsa in its first year. So in closing, I want to explain the higher purpose of all this. And the best way for me to explain it is with this photo. This is what I saw on the day that I was sworn in as mayor, December 5th, 2016. And those of you who know me know that I've wanted to be the mayor since I was like 8 years old. I've dreamt about the chance to serve this city that I love. And I remember the feeling I had when this photo was taken because it was overwhelming. The only other times when I felt that were when Susan walked down the aisle on the day that we were married and when I saw our 2 kids for the first time. It's the moment when you realize this dream you've had for so long is occurring before your eyes, when your highest hopes are being realized. And I've found that one of the most rewarding parts of this job is that I get to see people in increasing numbers all across our city have that exact same experience. The dreams that people have for themselves and for Tulsa are coming to life all across our city. I've seen it in the face of our newest fellow Americans when they go through a naturalization ceremony at City Hall. I've seen it in the face of this woman who got the help that she needed thanks to the Better Way program and turned her life around. I've seen it in the face of a former educator who decided to become an entrepreneur and open her new business, helping to lead a new generation of Black Wall Street entrepreneurs in the Greenwood District. And in case any of you are wondering, that's where I got these sweet new Nikes at Silhouette Sneakers and Art. And take it from me, if you're middle-aged and you want your kids to think you're cool, go buy a pair of shoes at Silhouette Sneakers and Art. Seeing all of this has given me a new appreciation for Tulsa. We talk a lot about the way Tulsans pull together in tough times, but I don't think we give ourselves enough credit on the joyful side. The reality that I see throughout our city is that in all the things we've talked about today, that Tulsa is a city where we help one another achieve our dreams. Whether your dream is owning your own business or improving yourself or seeing your family succeed or all of those things, in Tulsa, when we know one of our neighbors has a dream, we help them accomplish it. So I want to thank all of you for making Tulsa that kind of city. We are seeing the creativity and the full potential of Tulsa unleashed all across this region. And when we can be the kind of city, that kind of city, one in which we work together to achieve our highest aspirations, then the state of our city is strong. Thank you.